Alright, final video in our poster notes series here about the moon. Remember, that's the moon, capital T-H, capital T-H-E, capital M-O-O-N, the moon. The moon's name is the moon, capital T, capital M. And the moon and the sun and the earth do something interesting. They get into an alignment that is called syzygy. And syzygy is the alignment of three or more celestial bodies. Celestial bodies are things in space. And it's got to be three or more because two things are always lined up. You can always draw a straight line between two things. So when we look at this, the things that happen means that when they line up, two things happen, and they can only happen on certain phases of the moon. So the eclipses for us only happen on the new moon and the full moon. Now on the new moon, we have the solar eclipse. And what happens with that is, if we remember what it looks like when the new moon is in a new moon phase, we have the sun, the moon, and the earth, and we don't see the moon because it's up in the daytime. It rises with the sun and sets with the sun, and the near side of the moon is dark. But when it lines up with the sun in syzygy, the alignment of three or more celestial bodies, when it lines up sun, moon, earth exactly, the moon blocks out the sun. Just for a really quick moment, and then it starts letting light back through again. This only happens in the new moon phase, and when the sun's shining on it, the moon then casts a shadow on the earth. There's two parts to a shadow. There's the penumbra, which is the outer part of the shadow that's not as dark, and then there's the umbra, which is like the ultimate dark part of the shadow. And it casts it onto the earth. And that is a solar eclipse. The moon is eclipsing the sun's light. A solar eclipse happens only in a new moon phase, can only happen on the new moon, and it's when the sun, moon, and earth are in syzygy in that order: sun, moon, earth. And that is a solar eclipse. The other eclipse happens on the opposite side of the earth, where the moon is, when the moon moves around to the full moon phase. And this can only happen in a full moon phase. And that is when the three of them are in syzygy, and the order is sun, earth, moon, and they are lined up. And this is a lunar eclipse when the moon moves through the shadow of the earth. And again, it has to be lined up for a total lunar eclipse. It has to be lined up exactly. Sometimes we have partial ones where they're not lined up exactly, and so there's a partial shadow on the moon. So from the lunar eclipse, the sun, the earth, the moon, we've got the penumbra. The moon starts into the outer part of the shadow, which is not quite as dark, and then it hits the umbra, which is the darkest part of the shadow, and then as it exits, it's going to go through the penumbra again. The moon does not just disappear in the shadow. Sometimes it turns into like a really reddish color. Sometimes it's called a blood moon. And this is the lunar eclipse. The light on the moon is being eclipsed. So it's being eclipsed here. And again, the syzygy, the three of them in order for a lunar eclipse to happen on a full moon only, is sun, earth, moon. And that is the lunar eclipse. So on our poster notes, the last thing we've got to write is down by new moon, we write solar eclipse can only happen here. And up here by full moon, lunar eclipse can only happen here. So on the full moon phase, it has to be on a full moon. That is when a lunar eclipse can happen. And at the new moon, that is when a solar eclipse can happen. Now, we don't have these every month because the moon's orbit, the path it takes around the Earth, is not perfect. It doesn't go exactly the same way all the time. So it goes a little bit differently. So if it was a perfect orbit, we would have a lunar eclipse every full moon and a solar eclipse every new moon, and that does not happen. But they can only happen on new moon and full moon. New moon is a solar eclipse. Full moon is a lunar eclipse. Get that written down. Everything on here, you can, if you need to, stop the video and look at it. Go back to other videos. Get everything written down, what we have. And these are all the notes you need about the moon. And if you have this finished, send me a picture through our Google Classroom of it to get credit, and I would hold on to it because there will be an assessment about information about the moon. And if you have your poster notes, then you have all the answers. All right, get it done.